Okay, we are back to do the look-in for the retrograde cycle for Virgos and rising signs. Those of you who are new are very warm welcome, and return bees, welcome back, guys. Thanks. Please like and share the video if you feel it relates. Again, as the months progress through the retrograde, I will be doing updates very much connected to this to see where the energy is moving, how things are shifting. Now, we are going to cover the areas of Jupiter, Pluto, and Saturn, and the other areas and what houses they're coming up. There are particular houses that, in a karmic sense, are going to directly affect you. Now, Venus is going to be in Aries, which is going to be your 8th house, and that's, again, very much connected to life, death, money, and legacies, and the rebuild factor within the dynamic. Now, in your Venus house, you will be looking at the ability for your connections and what you're investing in, of how sustainable they are and whether they can actually go the distance. You're also, for some of you, going to be looking at your connections and what needs to go and what needs to stay. And again, those of you who had been on the fence in relation to a relationship, you may be looking at that and seeing whether it is manageable. Now, again, although it's falling in your 8th house, Aries being the 1st house, you will be looking at it from your very own perspective. So I do feel that you're going to be looking at it in a very self-orientated view. With Taurus being in your 9th house, in Uranus, it's your belief systems and your spirituality, I feel. And you're going to be looking at, it could be that you're dealing with a foreigner. It might be you're looking at, wanting to travel towards this person. And also what your belief systems are. It can be that you're actually looking back at how the path has been with a particular individual. But very generally, in your general life, you might be looking at past situations, past life situations. It can be your ability to bounce back after adversity, and you're spiritually really guided through your crown chakra. And I feel you're looking at things in a bigger picture, especially with the Taurus frequency being abundance, being the beauty symbol of astrology as well. So at a spiritual level, I do feel you're really looking at those areas of how you can get something off the ground and how you can get a situation moving. As I said, some of you might be dealing with past tense frequency of needing to end an old pattern, an old cycle, especially with Venus coming up with caution. You're being cautious, and it might be after being left out in the cold, or actually really being careful about who you're investing in. You're wanting success to come through in your 8th house, of wanting to be able to rebuild the situation, but at the same time, you're also wanting to stand for something. So you're trying to have integrity through the situation. The sun is also in your 9th house. And again, with the sun energy coming through in your religious beliefs, foreign countries, education, everything you've learned, as well as travel, wanting to be able to travel the distance. Again, the Taurus frequency is coming through with the sun. You're looking at it in a different way of, are you able to? And again, I do feel deep reflection on your path of the way you're going to be moving forward. Mercury is an Aries moving forward. And, from the 30th of April all the way through for 4 to 5 months, we are going to be dealing with this energy. And this is what your zodiac sign is going to be dealing with. Mercury in Aries for you falls in your 8th house. Now, that is to do with, again, life, death, money, legacy, wills, and the ability to bounce back. It can be that you're dealing with a past tense person who passed, some of you, or energies of, again, communicating your truth and wanting to proceed forward, but at the same time wondering how you're going to do that. You're wanting to move forward regardless of what has happened in the past. You've got the Chariot coming up in this position. So regardless of what has transpired, your movement forward with Mercury, the way in which you're communicating, you're very much looking at it from your own personal perspective, as well as in the 8th house. Do you have the ability to bounce back from the situation? Is it able to be resurrected and to have that physical movement and communication forward? I do feel regardless of what's going on the 3D, you're still continuing to move forward through the retrograde. Hi. Now, the moon. The moon is going to be in Taurus on the 4th. Now, being a new moon, it is a positive time for manifestation. If you're wanting to release anything, do this off the 18th and the 19th. And you can do it in a ceremony, so to speak. Really activate your crystals around this time, especially very much correlating to the areas in life that you want to release blockages from. It's a good time to activate your crystals, activate some water, drink that to do the clearing of it, and to set your intentions. Definitely, if you're wanting to release, the full moon is going to be in Scorpio on the 18th. It's a very good time to have a release of the energy. So, so you can actually write things down to directly release them. You're also going to find during that time, you're going to be seeing things a lot more clear, especially with the retrograde. Mars is going to be in Gemini, and that is your 10th house, and it is connected to your career. It's also connected to your reputation, your fame or lack of fame, and the other parent. So it can be that you're battling with an external person, that you're fighting to get things back on track. Again, with the Gemini frequency, it can be you're weighing up the pros and cons, a bit like a Libra, and you know how to address it. And it can be hot, cold energy with it. Although with the energy, what's coming through is you're going to be assessing the areas of your career, of your reputation, what you need to do to change those situations. And Saturn will really be showing you what is and what isn't working. Be very mindful of your communication with the Mars frequency. I do feel you're going to handle it correctly. See, throat chakra went. But I feel you're just being very cautious of assessing those areas and looking at flaws in the plan, so to speak. Neptune being in Pisces, again, is connected to marriage, contracts, and partnerships for you guys. And again, this is your 7th house. I do feel you might be in a bit, this is a delusional house, but it's also, to a degree, an entrepreneur house. When it does come to contracts and areas, it may be a dream comes true and you start moving towards an idea you have. Now, because it's connecting to your marriage, contracts, and partnerships, it might be you have a joint venture with people, or that you're planning to do that. It can be something you're already working on right now, and you're looking at how you can actually bridge the gap with that and make some of those hopes and dreams come true. You also do need to look at what is an illusion and what is a reality. And I do feel with Pluto and Saturn, with Jupiter, it's really going to show you where that is and where that isn't a reality that you're dealing with at this point. Saturn is going to be in your 5th house. Now, it is going to be covering your romance, birth, children, and luck. On the 30th, and I'm at the 30th right now, a lot of what's going to be highlighted, I do feel a lot of us are going to be super psychic around this time, super tapped into the energy of what we're wanting. But I do feel Saturn is almost lighting the way as to what's happening in this house for you, with your romance, with, you know, wanting to bring something to fruition, giving birth to a child, children, and luck. So, you know, what you need to do to see the truth of the situation to get that off the ground. It's stationary on the 30th, which is assisting Jupiter and Pluto in showing you what would need to end in order to have that growth. Now, again, as I mentioned in the other videos, it doesn't mean to say during the retrograde you have no growth. Yes, tower moments can happen, but they're already at the 3D there. It's merely with the retrograde cycle, what you do tend to find is your awareness and your consciousness and the 3D becomes more apparent. So it's a bit like the whole smoke and mirrors, because when you're dealing with the 3D nature of things, you may miss things. The retrograde is very positive in which you can see the things that you potentially missed. It's a bit like Saturn is taking you to the edge of a mountain, and potentially you had been handling it for a while, very optimistically so with the Neptune energy, you know, hoping that everything was going to be okay, but then giving you the clarity of the magnitude of that movement you may have been taking to deal with some 3D related dynamics in your life. In seeing the magnitude of the effort you will need to put in, it's giving you an aha epiphany moment to then retract and counteract and maybe renegotiate some sense of terms. Where do you invest your energy into that, or is there a simpler way in which you can do that? Jupiter in the area of where you're wanting to expand is covering your 4th house, and this has been coming up quite a bit. It is the physical foundation, domestic related issues, endings, parents, and home. So it can be in those areas that you're wanting to change the dynamic, and you're wanting life to perhaps be more balanced. It might be you're wanting a new home. It may be that you're looking at the structure of the environment at an emotional level, at a romantic level, and assessing your relationship. It might be that you're wanting less conflict and you're wanting to get it back on track. But I pulled the cards, and I'll come back to all of these after, and then I'll pull clarifiers. Also with Jupiter, you do have the 7th house. Now, this is covering marriage, contracts, and partnerships. I do feel with this, you're wanting things to be in a more balanced format. And again, I am seeing a lot of energy coming up with showing you where the imbalances are within the connection, external to the connection, or the chosen path you wish to walk towards. So it might be you're looking into what you would need in a relationship now, be it you're tuning into a particular person or a twin flame or a person you're directly with now. Okay, Pluto is in your 5th house. Your 5th house is romance, birth, and children. It also covers your luck. So in order to have those things, it's going to be showing you what would need to come to an end, and very similar to Saturn, if you're going to invest in a situation, being in your romance house of birth, romance, children, and luck, what you would need to do to rectify that, what you would need to do to move that. And again, I'll pull the clarifier. The Aries energy coming through with Chiron, again, you will be looking at it quite from your very own perspective. It is the 1st house, but it's falling in your 8th house. And again, it's all to do with your belief systems. So you may find you're going through a massive awakening at the moment, and it's really shifting the way you are seeing things energetically. It can also be to do with what you want to leave behind, and, you know, almost like shedding your old skin and going through an awakening process. It can also be a demon that you've been carrying, very much of how you perceive something. And again, I'm hearing blame, and I don't know why I'm hearing blame. It might have been to do with the person that had passed over, and this can really be coming up for you guys. It may also be fear-based frequencies of passing and how that will directly affect you, you know, whether you have done everything that you need to. Hi, Andrew. How are you? Okay, let's get tucked into the read. So overall for Venus in Aries for you guys is, again, your 8th house. Life, death, money, legacies, the rebuild. You're being very cautious in how you invest. You are reflecting back on what has transpired, what is being visually shown to you by Saturn, Jupiter, and Pluto, and you're assessing the situation. You do have hope in a way in which you're going to proceed forward. You're hoping that some of the external conflict-related dynamics will resolve. It's because I'm live, that's why. But you're being really careful with what you invest in emotionally. Even if you do have hope in the situation, it still feels as though you're assessing it. So it might be you've got the foot in the door, so to speak, but you're taking baby steps with situations. You're being very cautious. I do feel many of you may wish to pull your wall down, but you're being cautious and awoken to the past, but very much moving forward. Now, with your spiritual sense, with Uranus and Taurus, the ninth house, and your belief systems that are really shifting, it can be very full of conflict while you're going through that transitional phase. And I am really feeling for Virgos, they are going through a transformative state. This is a time when you're awakening to your own frequency as well as your own personal needs and requirements within connections, within contracts, who you are today. The reflection, yes, is of yesterday, but it's very much connected to who you've turned out to be now and who you're wanting to turn into. I'm also hearing you can't be something you're not. It feels a very icky vibration, and you're really fighting for your belief systems. Yeah, you're really wanting consistency. I do feel you've really worked on aspects of that within your own energy, Virgo. And I do feel your, I wouldn't say expectation. I refer it back to benchmark. Your benchmark has risen. I do feel this is towards yourself as well. And I'm hearing the term great expectations. With the sun being in Taurus, moving forward from the 30th onwards, and remember, we do have this transit for 4 to 5 months. So I'll be doing top up of these energies so we can come back and refer to it, and I'll try and hyperlink these to all the updates. What you're wanting to build towards does cover your ninth house, and it's the same as what Uranus is showing you. Your spiritual beliefs, any foreign countries, education, the things you've learned, the movement forward. You might have a lot of energies of feeling lost. So you're reflecting upon the loss and you don't want to lose your identity. It can be you're focusing on what you've learned to date and information that's come in. It is positive, and be open to miracles during this time with the sun frequency coming through in Taurus. It also may be causing you conflict if people are trying to make you something you're not. The message really that's coming through is, how do I put it? How do I beautifully put it? If somebody's trying to make you something you're not, you can only attain that frequency so long. You can only hold it up so long. I do feel it will cause conflict. It might be you really love this person, but at the same time, it can be that wounds happen between you, or there are things that aren't being spoken at the moment in relation to your beliefs, the past tense frequencies of what you've both traveled together. And again, it might be even a memory coming up from the past. I love miracles too. It's just trust in universe, isn't it? The Mercury energy is in your 8th house again of life, death, and legacies. And again, this could be very much connecting in with your communication. It can even be things that aren't working correctly. It could be suddenly, and there has been a lot of Mercury retrograde frequency around at the moment. And again, it can be with the planets of how they are moving together with the Neptune frequency, I believe. So it can be impacting Mercury. Again, from your own physical perspective, because Aries is the first house, Mercury is in Aries, it's falling in your 8th house. It may be that you're reflecting back on a parent or somebody who passed. This feels past tense though. It also can be how it directly changed you, what you want to leave behind for your family. You do have big plans. There is movement moving forward regardless, and regardless of whatever has happened in the past. I'm hearing and seeing from your reading that you're very much looking at it from your perspective and wishing to proceed forward. And I'm also hearing you don't want to live in the past. You can't change that. It can be conflict with conversations of people's belief systems, of what you should do with your money, what you should do with your assets. And it can even be family-related dynamics with the Cancer and Capricorn nodes, where it's coming through and people's opinions are impacting this area. Again, Mars being in Gemini is your 10th house, and it is covering your career, your reputation, your fame or lack of fame, and the other parent. So if you're co-parenting or you have a counterpart that's co-parenting, what's going on is you're trying to keep it balanced within your belief about this person, okay? You know, it could be to a degree you're romanticizing a scenario, but I'm feeling more you do have love for this person. So it can be at work, you're really loving the job. It can also be you've got to love what you do to manifest. That's what I'm hearing. When it does come to other people external in a karmic sense, when it does come to the other parent, look at it from a heart chakra point of view and attempt to detach, I feel. But there can be a karmic energy coming up in this area. Yeah, try and get grounded and actually hang out with people that want to be your vibration. There can also be jealousy very much correlating from this energy is they want to be like Mike, okay? So there is this jealous frequency coming through. And it might be that you're quite detached from the fame notion. I'm saying it's like it is going to be what it's going to be. There's a method to the madness. There's a process. And I'm also hearing come out of the dark, you know, there is the energy of that is a potential for you. But at the same time, it might be you're underplaying the real art of what you do and who you are to the fore. It can be other parents actually taking the shine, even though you've done the investment, something to that degree. Okay, Chiron, your wound house. You have it falling in your 8th house. And again, this is covering life, death, legacies, and money. It can be where you're investing in, and this is going to be for the whole year for you guys, the Chiron frequency. So the cards at the moment that are coming through for the 30th through all the way through May is the devil energy. So there can be, looking back on points in time where you felt you were stuck, you felt you were manipulated, a very toxic energy. You also might be afraid that people's manipulation will take you back to this. It might have directly impacted your health, but you also have the fact that you know who you are today. So I do feel with these two cards coming through, it's like the lower frequency and the higher frequency, and it's all the wounds. So the devil energy is the wounds that are coming up in Chiron for you guys and Aries. It is falling in your 8th house, as I mentioned. So at a lower frequency, I do feel you guys might feel you're stuck to that horrible frequency. In the higher, you're ascending and you're really becoming comfortable in your own energy. So it may bounce back and forward during the months moving forward, and the 30th very heavily, where you might have a little bit of self-talk going on, but it's a way in which you're processing the scenarios to heal and release it. Now, on to the interesting part of the read. Jupiter. You have the 4th house and the 7th house coming through, and I'll pull 2 cards for that area. Now, the 4th house is covering the psychological foundation. This can be at home, in a connection, what you're directly dealing with, domestic issues, endings, parents, and home. So it can be karmic energies. It can be the energy of co-parenting with counterpart or without, on your side of the fence, their side of the fence. Any disputes you're having in a sense of conflict, it's falling in your 4th house. Now, the card that's come through for this is union and marriage. So you're wanting to, in a Jupiter sense, expand and move this connection forward. Now, Saturn, as I said, is the mountain and the flashlight. It's coming through and it's showing you what you would need to do to change it to get this. So you could even be with this person right now and covering those areas. It's going to help you see where it is balanced and where it isn't and what you need to do to change that. With the 7th house, it is covering marriage, contracts, and partnerships. Same energy. You have an ability to manifest this in. It's also the fact that, you know, how do I put it? You can manifest the sin, but it's just by being yourself. Be cautious what you're thinking. Now, I do feel the seed has been planted, and I do feel it's coming to fruition. I also feel as though your ambitions might be directly, you're wanting to have the best of both worlds. You're wanting to be able to work as well as be in love. Now, being in the 7th house, it is covering marriage, contracts, partnerships, and oozing the energy of you've got too much on your plate. But you're wanting to do a lot. You want to expand the entirety of the situation. You want to have it all. Now, with Pluto, you have a few interesting cards. Okay, you have your 5th house. So Pluto is going to come along and say, right, in order for you to see if you can resurrect this situation, what are you going to need to do? What do we need to show you? Now, it is in your 5th house of romance, birth, children. And again, it can be the luck that you hold within that frequency. You have the 8 of Wands, which is, you know, the courage to move forward and the energy of what you're going to need to do to make that happen. So it might be addressing particular areas of this nature so that you can actually have the Jupiter frequency of the growth and the movement in the process. Again, it can be that maybe some of you are wanting children, and what you'd need to do to actually have that happen. Again, not a doctor, but it could be you're looking at IVF. It might be you're looking at your health. But I do feel this is more 3D related things of how to birth this new start and how to get to a point where you can release an old frequency, and that can be the direct person, or it can physically be a wound that you're needing to release of the past, very much connected to your love interest. Children as well can be a dynamic of where you're having to shift your energy and change the approach of how you're directly dealing with them. Now, Saturn is going to come through very heavily, and it is falling into your 5th house, which again is romance, birth, children, and love. And it's interesting because a lot of what is going on in your week is very much you're wanting it all, but the energy of what's going on is, you know, really having to see what is and what isn't working within your connections. Saturn's going to show you where people are working with you and where they're not, okay? It's also going to show you what your desires are, and you're going to be very, very direct. You do feel in order for this to happen, and Saturn's going to show you it takes 2 to tango. So Saturn's going to come through both to you, your partner, the energies around you, very much in the 5th house of what they would need to do, what you would need to do to transition this scenario over. But it is going to be quite forceful. But it is due to a desire, which is assisted by universe because it's directly impacting a connection. Now, let's have a look at the clarifiers for Jupiter. Okay. With your 4th house, the physical foundation, domestic issues, endings, parents, and home. You know, wanting to get this connection off to a new level. You're going to see the truth of the matter. In the 7th house, bear with me, marriages, contracts, and partnership. Seeing how you can balance it out to a point where you can have your relationship, your children, if you've got children, or to have children, having your hopes and dreams, but not just the relationship, but still having your individual identity. You also, it's not about money. It can be about a passion and a dream. If you're in a partnership, it may be they're thinking, you know, why do you want to do X, Y, and Z? Again, if it isn't employment, it might be because you need employment, or it may be because it's not about the money, it's for spirituality. It's for something that you want to do just solely for you. You may be also at an energetic level feeling into your feminine frequency and needing something at a very nurturing level, not just at a romantic level, but at a spiritual level very separately. Now, when it comes to Pluto in your 5th house of romance, you're being cautious, but you're having the courage to proceed forward. In your romance, birth, children, and luck, Capricorn, Pluto in Capricorn is going to show you what you're going to need to do this. And it is a bit of spiritual healing. And again, what is really coming through very heavily is the fact that there is a lot of an upgrade happening with you guys spiritually. So there is going to be a benefit to this transit for you, and it is going to help you really mature into your own frequency. Now, we do have the full moon in Scorpio on the 18th, and that's at 2 degrees. And the interesting thing is Scorpions are very renowned for being quite psychic, and you do actually have the psychic card come up in this energy. So I do feel you will intuitively know what to let go of. You'll know how to realign a situation and what you're going to need to do to proceed forward. And that does come down to your spirituality. I mean, you can't make that up. Dari, it's like you can't make that shit up. That's a big shout out to her. Spirituality, ascension, priest. You can't make it up. Any questions? Any questions? With Neptune being in your marriage contracts and partnership, you do have, you know, this energy where you're trying to wait. Yes, this is Virgo. Now, there's a falseness as to something, and it's interesting because it is in the Neptune house. You know, so it is a place where it's entrepreneurship, it's ingenuity, it's also delusions and illusions. This transit over the next 5 months is really going to show you where these illusions are at and what's true and what's false. So never fear, you are going to see where these energies are not relevant. But there are going to be some changes and potential tower moments through this, because Saturn and Pluto do bring tower moments of what you're going to need to change, in a sense of you are having a great awakening right now. And when you do go through a transformation, and it happens throughout your life, what you will find is you have a purge. You can feel quite tired before that comes on. You can get flu-like symptoms, and then it's like it dissolves and it feels very light in energy. Okay, let's see. Romantically speaking, overall, how will this transit directly impact you where it stands right now moving through May? Your crowning energy is you're going to reach that next level. This is what you're leading towards. This is why it's all happening, is to help you get to this point in life. The epitome of a beautiful connection. Any injustices and gossip is going to come to the forefront, and it may be causing conflict directly connected to your spiritual path, your love interest. So there can be external conflict, be it you're with them or you're not. There is an energy in relation to relationships that is coming up. It can even just be your belief systems of healing those energies. Now, at the heart of it, where the problem lies is there may be a very detached energy where a particular person is not taking enough responsibility or accountability. That can be on your side of the fence, their side of the fence, or the karmic. Okay? Karmic can be, especially in the 5th house, which is covering romance, birth, children, and luck. It can be children creating dynamics and not taking responsibility. It can be in the romantic side. One is away, one is home, and there is more energy on one side of the fence. It's like an imbalance, and Saturn's going to show you the imbalance in the situation. It's going to make you quite cross, but this could be the turning point of this transformative frequency. It also can be that there can be legalities, again, connected to bridging the gap with romance, birth, children, and luck. But again, these are the external scenarios and potentially the internal that are going to come up so that we can move through this frequency. Again, I do feel you guys being very cautious. You might actually be seeing the scenario very differently, of wishing you had reacted to the situation slightly different. But that's always the way when you go through a purge, the dissension and the ascension again. And that does go on for a long time through your spiritual process. So it may be a lot of reflection of, now that Saturn has showed you what is working, where you're wanting to move towards to build this whole paradigm of what you're trying to co-create, what you'd need to do to actually shift that frequency. And I do feel that it is going to bode well, but it may be an uncomfortable transit and energy. But there is going to be an outcome, and that's why it's handy to have those energies there. But I do feel you're doing too much. It might be also working very hard. That may be hindering the actual aspect of the purge coming up. And working doesn't have to be employment. It can also be the energy of you, how do I put it? You investing in situations, meditating upon situations. That can be an avoidance of the wound body, which with that being in your 8th house of life, death, legacies, and your finances, with the devil energy at the lower frequency, that pain being suppressed will come up at some point. So, to get you into this higher frequency, it might be because you're being super patient and you're doing so much work and being too many things to too many people. I'm feeling as though this is coming up and it might come up in a volcanic attack. It's because if you push it down too much and you're taking other people's accountability too much or shifting the energy, especially if you're saying 111 while you're super, super busy, universe is saying to you, get back and check, get back in alignment. You've detached from your core vessel. So sometimes, especially when we've needed restraining orders from numbers, it's because we have, to a degree, been so dense in the 3D and assessing scenarios that we have disconnected from self temporarily. So it helps you get back into alignment. You're working very hard, okay? When it does come to this injustice and conflicts around you, it's dragging your energy down. It can even be lower frequency people being around you. You're waiting for some conflict to actually balance out. There can be a court case coming up. Also, when it does come to these foolish energies or making an actual decision, it can be external people who have not been nice to you that you deem is enemy or lower frequency, causing conflict in this dynamic for your life. So it may be you're very guarded and protected, but that can come in ebbs and flows. And this is the energy at the moment from the 30th moving through to May. And again, I will do a top up of the energy as I can. It shall be each month, but if I can get back earlier, I will be doing it mid-month as well. If you are wanting a booking, very much covering your own path and your own energies directly to you, the link is directly below. You can book a reading and I can tune into it. Any questions? Any questions? I don't know. Maybe in answering to you, sure, it might be Mars. I love it when you come and you entertain me. I love it. Any questions? I'm going to clean up my dashboard now so I can do the next three because I'll write all the astrology down on the table. No questions. Gosh, that was interesting. And then I can come back and I can do the next one. Tell you, it's like Mercury retrograde at the moment. Okay, I will see you soon.